Toronto finished March with the lowest sales in the 21st century. Combined with low January and February sales numbers, this produced the lowest Q1 sales in over 30 years in the city of Toronto. The clear and obvious reasons preventing buyers from shopping and sellers from listing their homes being tariffs, potential for job losses, and what it's all going to mean to our economy and way of life. The upcoming federal election might also have some weight in the market. This ad hoc poll in a realtor group I'm in suggests about 60% of clients are waiting for the election to pass to make their next real estate decision. However, I'm of the opinion that this is more of a delay tactic until market turmoil has settled down. Through the clientele that I'm personally working with since about mid-March, I found that the buyers and sellers who seem seriously committed in moving this spring have been first-time home buyers who are finally seeing some value return to the real estate market, people that are undergoing a life change such as a growing family, move into a retirement home or an estate sale, or sellers who are financially stressed. Yet, there are many who are curious about moving, but only for a market that will yield the right price and an appropriately active market where they can be confident enough to both be able to sell their home and have enough listings to choose their next home from. The challenge with this market is there seems to be little consistency in sale price, and it almost feels like it's changing week to week. In Etobicoke, where I tend to do a lot of work, last fall the entry-level price point for a dated yet livable bungalow was around 1.2 to 1.25 million. For a top-to-bottom fully renovated home, it was about 1.5 million, sometimes pushing beyond 1.6 million, essentially the cost of the home plus the cost of the renovation. This spring, not only 6 months later, the dated yet livable bungalow seems to have dropped to about 1.15 million and the fully renovated bungalow to about 1.3 million. Looking at the difference, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as fully renovating a home still costs over $200,000, but that's the market right now. I'm reasoning this gap down for higher priced homes being due to fewer buyers that have the funds to purchase at higher prices without selling another property or asset, proving that there remains high demand for family-sized homes at the lower price points. And where does that demand remain the highest? Well, it's in the 800,000s. For the past few years, 800,000 has proven to be the entry price point for a family-sized home in the real estate market. And the values do not seem to be dropping for homes in these lower priced neighborhoods. I'm not seeing any move-in ready, livable homes in the 700,000s, which is somewhat encouraging as this means a true collapse of Toronto real estate is unlikely. Still, the fundamentals remain. Interest rates have come down and there are people who are very interested in moving. I know this, every realtor knows this, but interest in moving isn't materializing into market action, which means that in reality, at this moment in April 2025, there is very low true demand at nearly every price point in the market. Right in the middle of this spring market, a time that we typically see heavy sales activities with both buyers and sellers. I was asked recently how prices can drop so rapidly for some property type. How can market value for a home be worth $1.5 million last fall and then be worth only $1.3 million this spring? To understand, we need a bit of a reframe of what market value actually is. Market value is the point where the highest price a buyer is willing to pay meets the lowest price that a seller is willing to accept at that moment in time. And the reason that prices are dropping is sellers are accepting lower offers, not because they want to, but because they've decided that they are going to sell at this moment, and no one knows what the heck is going to happen next. Not next week, not next month, not 6 months from now. In the past, the lowest price that the seller would take was actually the highest price that a bunch of competing buyers would pay in order to win the home, which was almost always as high, if not higher than what their neighbors got. For market value to remain high, the sellers need to stop accepting low offers and be confident that they can get their higher prices a reasonable amount of time later. To President Trump's credit, he has caused so much chaos in his first 80 days in office that world trade is being rewritten, industries are being shifted, financial markets are seeing seismic movements, and we are all confused on how this will play out. In previous real estate seasons, sellers who failed to sell would look forward to the future and say, hey, if I can't sell this season, there's always next season when rates may be lower and when buyers might come back out. But now, things aren't looking so certain. This tweet encapsulates the wildly volatile world we exist in right now. If a business owner can't rationalize investing in their business during these interesting times, it makes sense that a home buyer or seller would be equally cautious. And speaking of volatility, I never see economists make the link between financial markets and real estate. But given the wildly volatile last few weeks the stock markets have experienced, it's possible this impacts the Toronto real estate market in a not so obvious way. We all know that Toronto real estate price growth decoupled from average household incomes about 10 years ago, and so for many homebuyers, financial market performance has a correlation on whether they can afford to buy a home. It's incredibly hard to save for a down payment dollar for dollar from your paycheck, and so most homebuyers will invest their savings in order to get there quicker through vehicles like the first-time homebuyer savings accounts, RRSPs, and tax-free savings accounts. So we want the markets to be stable and productive so buyers can save and buy. If financial markets continue to get hammered, buyers won't have as much money to pay our high home prices, and yes, sellers will be forced to accept lower offers. So here we are this April, potentially looking down the hill of a bad recession. Maybe. Look, I don't really know what will happen next, but markets always exaggerate potential, both good and bad situations. I'm of a personal belief that real estate is the most human market, driven by true need for shelter and achieving lifelong dreams, be it in security or lifestyle. Homeowners can only delay movement for so long before saying, fuck it. As such, even if we have a real stinker of a spring market, market action will probably be backloaded to the second half of 2025. So that's it for me this month. I'm Jonathan Lee, a Toronto area real estate agent. Thanks for watching. If you want to chat real estate, you can click on the Calendly link below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next month. Cheers.